consecutive 3-0 home defeats for Manchester United, who have come up way short. A second win here in the space of 52 years for Newcastle, with first half goals from Almiron and Lewis Hall. A wry smile on the face of a lifelong Newcastle fan who's got his first goal for the club. Joe Willock scored an excellent third just past the hour mark. Stuart Robson, your concluding thoughts?
Well, Newcastle deserved it in that first half. They had a better game plan, they had hungrier players, they won the tactical battle, they were better technically, and it was a really poor Manchester United first half. They had a little go for 20 minutes in the second half, and that third goal killed them off. Really poor from United, excellent from Newcastle.
Dan, if it wasn't a crisis before, it's one step closer to it now. There'll be so much scrutiny of the intense variety on Manchester United going forward. Next in action at Fulham on Saturday lunchtime UK time, but at the moment they can't buy a win. It's finished Manchester United 0, Newcastle 3.
Dan Thomas, joined by Craig Burley and Shagger Hislop. Lots going on today. Later on in the programme, we're reflecting on Arsenal being knocked out by West Ham in the Carabao Cup, plus Bayern out of the German Cup, knocked out by a team plying their trade in the third tier of German football. Huge shock there. Meanwhile, was it really a shock at Old Trafford? Let's take you through exactly what happened in the game that is just finished. Here on Plus, Manchester United taking on Newcastle, both teams making changes. United, of course, looking for a response after that disappointing defeat against City. They didn't get it, as it would be Newcastle would open the scoring in the 28th minute. Almiron making it 1-0.
Livramento picking this ball up just outside his own box, allowed to gallop just about the length of the field. You see, he evades the challenges of Garnacho. Hannibal in midfield doesn't do an awful lot. Nice run by Gordon just to drag Maguire away. Dalot asleep. And Almiron, nice first touch. Really nice finish.
It would get even worse for Ten Hag 6 minutes later, as Newcastle would make it 2-0. Hall here with the finish.
Yeah, Dalot doesn't really want to make a challenge to give a penalty away. In the end, the ball's not cleared properly. Maguire heads it out, drops it at Hall's feet. Good finish.
So how would United respond in the second half after being booed off at the break? Well, not very well, because Newcastle would make it 3-0. Willock with the individual effort.
Just picks his ball up in midfield. Again, as poor as Manchester United have been defensively, they just back off, allow Willock space, time to find, in all honesty, a very good finish. But if you're a United fan, as these are, you can't believe what you see.
Goodness gracious me then. Defending champions out of the Carabao Cup. It's Newcastle then who advance the next round. Frank Leboeuf joins us, but Craig, I want to start with you. How bad is this for United?
Many times you've known me to be lost for words.
I don't know, not many.
It's so bad, I don't know where to start. I've sort of got my head in my hands going, we've talked about this so much. We've talked about this United side this season so much and how bad it's been. That was a new low, and I'm now like, where do you start here? Because Newcastle coughed up an opportunity with their injuries, with all the competitions they've got coming up, in particular the Champions League, which they are going to be competitive in all of these competitions, maybe not the Champions League all the way through, but the other competitions where Man United are not. So they have all these things to think about. Suspensions, injuries. Put a team out that had at least 7 players you wouldn't say were regular starters. And United put out, all right, they left out some of the big heads, Rashford, Fernandes, Rasmus Højlund didn't start, but they still played Casemiro and others. Amrabat come on. Wan-Bissaka come on at half-time and Amrabat. That was a bit strange. Yeah. Some more strange substitutions. Bruno Fernandes come on in the second half with Rashford. Guess what? He moaned at the referee a few times, just for a change. So I mean, it's just another shambles. There's no other way to describe it. And we saw so many cutaways of the manager again, Erik Ten Hag, because he's the flavour of the month, isn't he, for the TV companies. Let's go for a cutaway of Erik Ten Hag, because he looks lost, just completely lost.
Let me put this in some perspective. Who is man in the match for Manchester United? In all these games, you have sponsors, and invariably there's a man of the match that's named for the home team. Who gets named man of the match today? And while admittedly we've been trying to keep our eye on a number of different games, there is not a single player that I can think of made any meaningful contribution to Manchester.
And there were players with good reason to step up. Casemiro, of course, back from injury. Mason Mount, who hasn't hit the ground running. You look at Anthony trying to silence his critics after what he did on Sunday, yet nobody did.
Martial.
No one.
Yeah.
Again.
And it's almost as though, I don't want to say that everybody was that bad. It wasn't a series of glaring mistakes by a bunch of individuals. It was just nobody doing anything. Just nobody doing anything. It's not as though we could point to Onana making a mess with a couple of soft shots, or Maguire doing something silly. We can't point to any glaring mistakes like that. And yet still, we have absolutely no idea who did anything.
Mark Ogden and Aidan Manure at Old Trafford. Mark, I want to start with you because you followed Manchester United for a very long time. How low in the history of lows is this low? Well, we see Mark smiling, but I think it may be a somewhat of a sarcastic smile, as we got no sound. We got no sound at the moment. Frank, what surprised us watching this game was the lack of response after the City match.
That was really appalling what I saw, and I'm very surprised because, yeah, you can understand a loss against Manchester City. You can say, yeah, there is levels of differences and differences of maybe talent inside both teams, but today we saw nothing. So make credit to the Magpies because they did what they had to do, and they were very brave, and they worked hard, and they created a difference that we saw. But from Manchester United, as the guy says, we cannot mention a player who at least did average, was only average. They were all horrendous, like nowhere there, no spirit, no happiness whatsoever to be on the field at Old Trafford wearing the Red Devil shirt. I never seen Manchester United like that. That's the worst of the worst that I've seen from Manchester United players. You see rotation, you see some other players coming, but you see nothing changing. You see that a group of players just being there, and you know that's crazy. We call it Manchester United. And I already said that before, that everything but United, what I saw today. There is no reaction, no leadership. That's crazy. I never seen that club that low for me in a recent time.
I'm going to be intrigued by whenever we get it. Probably won't get it in time tonight, but I'll be hearing later and maybe tomorrow. Maybe we will be lucky and Ten Hag will put his head above the parapet and say something with some sort of normalcy and not the BS that he's been coming out with. Because people are seeing through that now.
Yeah.
And if you're not seeing through it, you don't know what you're looking at. To start with, these Manchester United players, most of them are incapable of doing the first basic of this sport at any level, and that's to work as hard or harder than the opposition. They fail miserably at the very first basic, and then the rest of it falls like a pack of cards. Right? And it starts with the big timers, the Antonys, the Rashfords with a new contract, the Bruno Fernandes who goes away with Portugal and looks like a world beater. And when he comes back here, he's just a moaner and a groaner. Starts with all these people. And it just filters, and it has filtered all the way through. And I tell you what, he's got to be close now, Eric Ten Hag. They go to Fulham at the weekend, who sit 14th, I believe it is. They haven't had the best start this year under Marco Silva. But they go to Craven Cottage. If they have another disaster, and that's what this is tonight, a disaster when you look at the two teams, he has to be close. Because he's run out of ideas, Dan. He has shown himself, at the moment he's shown that last year was nothing more than got a bit lucky. got results, got to a cup final, didn't play great against Newcastle, won it, got in the top 4. That's just all gone now. That seems to me they huffed and puffed and managed to do it. He's not been able to back that up. I lied to that a bunch of wasters really within this squad, and he's been, he's culpable for bringing some of them in, not them all, but some. The weekend, if it wasn't huge before this game tonight, is now humongous because if Fulham embarrass them, what are the Glazers going to do? What are they going to do? Sit there and talk about a 25% sale to Ineos and Jim Ratcliffe? I mean, the fans want these people out of the club. I'm not suggesting these performances are because of the Glazers, right? But this whole thing needs a huge broom coming in and just sweeping it clean, top to bottom. It's not going to happen because they're only interested in money. But my God, it absolutely stinks at the moment.
Let's see our connection. I think it's back on now with Mark and Naden. Mark, how bad was it tonight?
Oh, it was really bad. I mean, I've seen Liverpool win here 5-0. I've seen plenty of Man City wins here, the 6-1. But against those teams, you're playing against some of the strongest teams in the world, never mind the Premier League. But this was Newcastle's second string tonight. And United is... I mean, not only did they not turn up, they were just played off the pitch, and just a lack of effort, a lack of energy, a lack of quality. And I think this is as low, I won't say it's as low as it can get. I mean, it's the Carabao Cup, so that is the one saving grace. It's not the Premier League. I mean, the guys are talking then about Ten Hag being under threat. I think the big issue for the Glazers over the years has been Champions League qualification. As soon as that becomes apparent they're not going to make it, they do start to make decisions. But I do think the problem they've got is that they're in talks right now with Ineos about a takeover. Can they make the decision to get rid of a manager without these potential new investors coming in? But the investment hasn't been...
Obviously, we just lost connection there.
Our
connection is good as the performance. The performance from United.
That does sort of muddy the waters, doesn't it? This whole, it's not. It's going to be a takeover with Qatari investment. Then it was Jim Ratcliffe's Ineos, or obviously a very successful businessman owns other football clubs. The Glazers holding out for huge sums of money. So this is rattled on and on and on, and it just means decision making. I mean, is it on hold? I mean, if they lose 4-0 at Fulham at the weekend.
But then, if they lose 4-0 at Fulham, who are they going to bring in? Who is going to come in and steady their ship? We've been there. Ralph Rangnick, of course, in the past.
Ralph Rangnick.
You take a look at the decisions that have been made in the past.
But what else? Listen, would it be a surprise if they got the pants taken down at Fulham again at the weekend? Right? The answer is no. So what do they do? What do they do? Do they just keep saying, OK, well, we're just going to keep going, getting beat 1-0, 2-0, 3-0? How do they sell it?
Listen. They have a run of games now. Fulham, Luton, Everton in the league, Copenhagen, Galatasaray in the Champions League. To Craig's point, and I've been feeling all along that Manchester United will not set Ten Hag, and Mark spoke about it, kind of give him the moving parts, shall we call it, at the football club, and the Ineos investment coming in, and what does that mean? But in those 5 games, if things continue to trend as they are now, I'm not sure how you defend it. I mean, Luton, Everton, Fulham, those are games that Manchester United should win with second and third string teams. Now, all of a sudden, yes, you kind of survive at home against Copenhagen. Now you're looking at going there and really wondering if...
But when's the last time United dominated a side? In this season, they haven't.
They really haven't. And for me, it's amazing how last season has contrasted with this. And I'm wondering what does Ten Hag need to do? While we were full of praise for how he managed Cristiano Ronaldo, now you start to wonder if that kind of sparked the dressing room, if how he managed that kind of gave the players some belief, and now he's struggling to rekindle that. Having a strong response to Ronaldo and having a strong response to Jadon Sancho are not the same thing. That is not going to incur the same kind of response around your authority in the dressing room. And so he's struggling, it seems, to motivate these players. He's struggling to put together a game plan against good opposition. And all those things coming together, you get the kind of performances that you see today.
He was To answer your question, I think they dominated 30 minutes away at Tottenham.
Yes.
And then they got steamrolled for the rest of it. Pretty much about it. I mean, they defended okay at Arsenal for... I mean, that's about... Yeah, I'm searching here. Defended okay for periods. Were outplayed by a lot of teams and took a dodgy sending off against Forest at home to help them over the line in that game. And the list is endless. Where was Newcastle when Eddie Howe took over? The bottom three.
Bottom. They were bottom. Dead last.
They've spent money, but how many players have they bought that's been 100 million? What was Isak? 67?
Yeah.
That was about 70.
Got Dan Bunn from Brighton.
Yeah.
Got Botman in.
Tonali, obviously, the big money move.
Well, 70 million, but that's still 30 or 40 short. Trippier. You know, all these solid pros, right? That's the difference. Solid pros. Guys that come in, want to work, want to do the job, understand the job. And as Oggy said before he got cut off there, you've just been outplayed. And the stats will say United had more possession, but it's possession for possession's sake. You were outplayed, outpassed by Newcastle's second string. Newcastle, and if you'd listened to Eddie Howe over the last 24 hours, bemoaning the injuries and all the players he's got missing and all the stuff that Newcastle are in these days, and that's part of the job, you'd have thought Newcastle had no chance turning up today. If you were going to put a bet on, you'd have went, you have no chance. This manager's almost waving a white flag. But guess what? Turn up Manchester United.
Yep.
The team that everybody wants to play at the moment. And yeah, I don't know what's going to happen with the manager, but he looks to me... I mean, what is their team going to be on Saturday at Luton? They play Saturday morning, 8:30 Eastern time, away at Craven Cottage. What's he going to do? Who's he going to play at the back? Who's he going to play in the middle? Who's he going to play up front? Who's he going to play wide? Nobody knows.